Hello, welcome to The Secret Mind. We've got new sound, and today we have Every Man an Enemy by W. Howard Baker, Chapter 8. The headline read, Post-Claimant Poisoned. The words were splashed in heavy type across 3 columns on the front page of the Daily Post over the byline of Arthur Kirby. Fawcett, the man with the 7 o'clock face, had been dead for 36 hours. Sexton Blake saw the headline and byline and read the story. He read it with the interest he accorded to all strange happenings, sitting up in bed with his morning tea and hot buttered toast. Beside the bed, Pedro, his old faithful bloodhound, kept a wary eye open for crumbs and tried to look mutely appealing. There is no doubt, Sexton Blake read, that Charles Robert Fawcett, 49, found dead early yesterday morning in his bed-sitting room in Willett Street, Bermondsey, was murdered. A senior officer at Scotland Yard confirmed this today. Fawcett, who regular readers of the Daily Post will recall as one of the 5 claimants to the authorship of the controversial novel 6 Pillows to Midnight, was killed by a massive overdose of a drug called Paramin. Paramin is a new drug now being used in delicate operations on the heart. There was more in this vein, and the consequences of a massive overdose of Paramin were described in grisly detail. Blake lifted an eyebrow and read on. He learned that the police had interviewed the other 4 claimants to the title of MacDonald Hall, and that after satisfactorily accounting for their movements on the previous evening, all had been allowed to go home. The mystery deepens, Kirby's story concluded. Why was Charles Robert Fawcett killed? Was he MacDonald Hall? Blake shook his head wonderingly. Blowed if I know. Now see page 4, a footnote advised him. Obediently, Blake turned the pages. I've made up my mind, Blake said firmly, swinging his breakfast tray into the kitchen one-handed and giving Mrs. Bardell, his motherly housekeeper, a pat upon her ample shoulders as she bent over the sink. I'm going to get a car, Mrs. Bardell. A what, sir? Mrs. Bardell looked very puzzled. On the other side of the kitchen, Edward Carter, Blake's junior partner, drained a mugful of coffee and remarked affably, I was wondering when you were going to get up. We are all, my dear Tinker, entitled to lie abed on occasion, Blake told him equably. I had a late night. Furthermore, I haven't exactly been wasting my time since I woke up, and I thought you were supposed to be at the office. Tinker looked at him and grinned. Business, he said. Some papers requiring your august signature. Your December signature, too, come to that. Blake groaned hollowly, and Pedro, who had just pushed his way into the room, looked sympathetic. Tinker frequently affected him that way as well. Tinker regarded Blake brightly. But you were saying, before the groan? Something about a car, Tinker said. Getting one. Ah, yes. Yes, indeed. But you've got a car, sir, said Mrs. Bardell dubiously. Blake nodded wisely. True, very true. Well then, said Tinker. But this one, said Blake, the one we're talking about, is the one that I'm going to win. Win? Tinker said blankly. A 1966 Jaguar, Blake said, nodding. Silver grey. Oh, yes, Tinker agreed sagely. I'm sure the colour makes all the difference. Win a car, sir, said Mrs. Bardell. Looks! How do you go about winning a car? She thought for a moment and then added, somewhat sadly, come to that, sir, how do you win anything? I never can, not even at bongo. Bingo, said Tinker. Eyes down, Blake said smartly as he spread a copy of the Daily Post out on the kitchen table and began to open it to page 4. Pedro blinked. This conversation was way over his head. Oh, I get it, Tinker said brightly as Blake turned the pages. A fashion competition. Place 6 of these 10 bikinis in their correct order of merit. Blake regarded him sternly. In mixed company. Do you mind? Mrs. Bardell crackled as she dried her hands. Bikinis, he says. Bikinis in this weather. Cool. She appealed to Blake. It's winter, sir. Never mind about them jugulars and bikinis. Couldn't you just win me a nice little fur coat in time for Christmas? Sorry, said Blake. It's a Jaguar or nothing, and Christmas is only 10 days away. Who do you think I am? A magician? But you said... Mrs. Bardell's voice tailed away. It must be a Jaguar, Blake said patiently. But winning it is going to be easy. And, he went on, bending an eye upon Tinker, it's no fashion show. He had the newspaper open now at page 4. Look, he said, and he showed them. First prize is that car and 2 seats at your favourite cinema for the rest of your life. Carla Scott was John Bovis's private secretary, and at this moment she was seated in the supposedly approved position for all personnel and private secretaries on her employer's knee. Her red hair brushed Bovis's cheek. He was holding her very tightly. She looked at her left hand. She moved it, parting the fingers. She said, "This is the most wonderful Christmas present that I've ever had," and she said it breathlessly, meaning it. She was talking about the diamond solitaire engagement ring, which encircled her finger. Bovis held her yet more tightly. He turned her head very gently. He kissed her. They were still kissing, still sealing their engagement, when, 2 minutes later, the telephone rang. "What?" demanded Bovis of the telephone. "Is all this about a car?" Blake's voice expressed surprise. "I thought that you'd know about it." "I don't. You didn't see the Daily Post this morning?" "I didn't see any paper this morning. I've got them, but I haven't looked at them. To tell you the truth, I've been, rather busy." Bovis moved the receiver slightly as he spoke. He held it a little further away from his face. Carla was wiping her lipstick off his mouth with a lace-edged handkerchief. With his free hand, he patted her thigh affectionately. "As a matter of fact," he went on into the phone, "Carla and I, that is Miss Scott and myself, you've decided to do it," Blake cut in cheerfully. "You're going to get married." "Yes, but how? I recognize the signs when you were talking about her," Blake said. "When you were around here, that's how I know. Congratulations, she's a wonderful girl." "She is," Bovis agreed, and then returned to his original question again. "What is all this about a car?" "Not just a car. Not just any old car. A 1966 Jag, straight off the assembly line. The Post is offering it to anyone who can offer a solution to the mystery surrounding this author of yours, MacDonald Hall." "He's no author of mine," Bovis rejoined somewhat bitterly. "He's Harvey Innes's discovery. I'm ruined the day I first heard his name." "But you're still going to publish 6 Pillows to Midnight?" "I'll be publishing it when it's decided which of the 5 claimants wrote it," Bovis said forcibly. "But finding that out is going to be quite a job. If the Post is offering a car as a prize, I think it's a good thing. It's a publicity stunt designed to sell papers, of course, but it should sell quite a few books as well if we ever do get this damn thing sorted out. It's just possible, too, that it might help separate the single sheep from the other 4 goats. Yes, I approve. Though I do think that someone at the Post should have told me about it before they pushed the boat out. Until you told me about it just now, I was quite in the dark." "And not only about the competition," Blake said, "or at least that's what it sounds like. You keep saying that there are 5 claimants. There aren't. Not anymore. The number's 4 now." Bovis said. "What do you mean?" "Murder is what I mean," Sexton Blake told him. "One of them, a chap called Fawcett, was found dead in his room yesterday morning. He'd been poisoned. You hadn't heard about it?" Bovis was shocked. "Poisoned?" he gasped. Carla Scott, moving around his desk, stopped and looked at him wide-eyed. "What's happened, John?" "Fawcett's been murdered. One of the claimants." She looked stunned. Bovis said into the telephone, "No, I'd heard nothing. This happened yesterday?" He hesitated. "I suppose Innes or Kirby must have tried to get in touch with me. I gave all my staff yesterday off as a kind of pre-engagement bonus. Carla and I went to Silverstone." "I should imagine Kirby was trying to get hold of you yesterday," Blake said. "He's got a long piece on the front page on this morning's Post. And there's no doubt about it, is it? It's murder, not suicide?" Beside Bovis, Carla Scott whispered, "It's almost unbelievable." "It's murder, all right." Blake's voice was strong and clear over the line. "There's no doubt about that. I've just been talking to one of my friends at the yard, and he confirmed it." "Murder?" Bovis breathed. "It doesn't have to be connected with 6 Pillows to Midnight." "It doesn't have to be," Bovis agreed slowly, "but—" "Exactly," Blake said. "There is that but, isn't there? Tell me, what is at stake here? How much money is going to whoever establishes their claim to be the real MacDonald Hall?" Right now, Bovis said, at this moment, £30,000 or £40,000, and it will soon be more. I see. Well, people have been killed for very much less. But what does the killer hope to gain? What can he gain? Bovis wanted to know, if he's one of the claimants. John, Carla said. Blake put in quickly. He doesn't have to be one of the people who've made a claim so far. He could come forward later. You mean, before he comes forward, he'll have eliminated all the others? John Bovis's voice climbed. But that's fantastic. Stranger things have happened, Blake said. But it's only a possibility, nothing more, and only if Fawcett was killed for some reason connected with that novel. John, Carla Scott said again, trying to attract Bovis's attention. But he was still talking to Blake. I don't think Fawcett's murder could have anything to do with 6 Pillows to Midnight. It must be totally unconnected with it. The police, Blake said, think the same thing, if that's any comfort to you. All the same, I think the whole mystery of just who is MacDonald Hall and just where he is should be cleared up speedily. I couldn't agree more, Bovis said. I'm glad that you're going to take a hand. Blake sounded very regretful. Pity everything will have to be held in abeyance over the holiday. Christmas is practically upon us. Then John Bovis had an idea. Look, he said quickly. Look, why don't you come over down to my place in the country for Christmas? Why don't we have everybody down there? Everybody? Everybody connected with this. All the claimants. Kirby, Harvey Innes, you. Everybody. A kind of Christmas house party while I try to sort things out, you mean? That's it. That's it exactly. Blake thought it over. It sounded to him like a very good idea. All the same, his answer was slow in coming. Slow until Bovis said, and you can invite anyone else you can think of course. Fine, Blake said. Fine, then we'll do that. My place is near Marlow on the Thames. Anywhere near where Edgar Wallace used to live? Blake asked. I had some dealings with Edgar Wallace years ago. Did you? Yes, my house is quite near the one he used to own, but, Bovis went on, I'm beginning to regret even that now. Why? I've nothing against Wallace personally, said Bovis, but he was a writer, wasn't he? And I've got a lot against writers in general. Most of the trouble in my life, it seems to me, has been caused by one damned writer or another. Hey, Blake said, protesting. I'm busy on my memoirs, don't forget. If you want to work on them over Christmas, Carla will be bringing her portable typewriter. I'm not that keen. Exactly, you're not that keen, so I'll include you out of my remarks about writers, but only you. Carla was standing close to Bovis as he spoke. He reached for her and settled a long arm round her waist. Thank heavens you have no literary aspirations, darling. Blake chuckled at the end of the line. I know that wasn't intended for me. I'll ring you later and fix the details for Christmas. Good, do. We'll be seeing you. Bovis returned the phone to its rest. He kissed Carla again. Then he said, I'm sorry, darling, if I didn't seem to take any notice of you when I was talking to Blake. Did you want to ask me something? It was nothing. She had her arms tight round him. I've forgotten what it was, she said. See you tomorrow.